Hello everyone, and welcome to this two-day webinar, 2 hours today and 2 hours tomorrow. And we'll be learning how to apply precognition and retrocausality, which are basically the same thing, by doing it. So we will be predicting the NFL Thursday night football game, the over-under, and I'll explain what that is before we're done this morning. Now, the technique that we use is associative remote viewing. It's precognitive associative remote viewing. You can use it for present time, but of course our focus is in predicting the future. Now, ARV is an application of remote viewing, and remote viewing is the gathering of information from distant locations and or times using capabilities of consciousness not yet accepted by the current paradigm. Often the definition says using paranormal techniques, not your normal senses. However, I consider precognition to be an absolutely normal function of human beings. So I like this not accepted by the current paradigm, and one of the things that the work we're doing is about is trying to educate society. So our focus is on gathering information indeed from the future. Now let's first get really clear about what we mean about the word target. We're going to be introducing some words that may be new to you, and I'm going to do my best to explain them and get you to understand them. Now a target in the ARV, associative remote viewing sense, is really very similar to like a target in archery, where the archer now there, he uses a bow and arrow, and what is his? He sets his intention to hit a bullseye on a target. Well, in remote viewing, there must be what is now considered an information target. In archery, he's viewing this in the physical world as a physical target. In remote viewing, we would look at this like the information. You know, the arrow is a physical thing, but the information about it is, say, it's long. Hey, there's some red in there. It's thin. Hey, I see multiple arrows. It's that kind of information that now becomes our target. Another thing which is really critical in ARV is that this information must be of a nature such that you can get feedback. We don't ever use ARV on things where there's no possibility of getting feedback. Some people use remote viewing and they haven't gotten feedback yet. We're not interested in that. We're interested in targets where we know we can get feedback. And that feedback is really the basis of making measurements on how well you're doing, learning. The feedback, as you'll see, is extremely important. In fact, I know that precognition in a very real sense begins with the feedback session, and we'll be talking about that, of course. Now, our targets are often photosites. Other kinds of targets might be objects. Some targets are targets where a viewer might actually go to it. They did a lot of that work early on in the early days of remote viewing, where they'd actually visit a target. But we're working with people all over the world, and so we use what are called photosites. Now, a photosite is not the same as a photo. This is a photo here, okay, but it's flat. It's two-dimensional. A photo site has the three-dimensionality included. You know, there's like a perspective here, which if you were at the site, you would see. There are sounds. When these arrows hit, there'd be sounds going on. There might be tastes, colors. Some of this stuff you can get from a photo, but certainly not everything. You can't get, if there are emotions at a site, and here I wouldn't see any here. Over here you might, tension, you might get anticipation, things of that sort. Whether there's action going on, the idea of concepts, all kinds of things which you can get from being conscious at the site. Now, at the actual location when the photograph was taken. But what we're interested in from the perspective of associative remote viewing, and this is part of the definition of a photo site, is the information that can be verified from a photo. So if there happens to be a lake just, 100 meters away from where this guy is, and you say water, and you might even be right, that'll do us no good at all. So the photo site is everything which can be verified from the photo based on your consciousness being at the site. Now, just like in archery, you sometimes might get a direct hit on the bullseye, get close, and sometimes you might miss the target entirely. And in fact, that is what we're quite interested in, is hits, misses, passes, and the information that we gather from what are transcripts. Now, what we're going to be doing here is a prediction on a game where we're going to be predicting the over-under. I'm giving you this now just to make very specific what the target in terms of what we're predicting is. So this is not the information target. The total points, which are put out by a bookmaker, is called the line. The line, in our case, we're going to be interested in the over or under line, and that is the total number of points that is scored by each team. So it's simply the sum. Some people have never really heard of it. It's very, very common because it's like a 50-50 proposition. The bookie will set that based on his knowledge of the teams, and the actual one we're going to be doing today is the Arizona Cardinals against the San Francisco 49ers at 8 o'clock in the morning. And this line sometimes changes, but it was now 43. When we actually put in the prediction, I'll check that line. But this is typical of a football game. Around 40 to 50 points is typically the line. Now from this comes a question. Will the over-under wager win? Yes or no? I'm going to couch our understanding of associative remote viewing with you in terms of a question which needs to be answered. So the question we're going to be asking is, will the over wager, the specific over wager, win? And it could be yes or no. Yes, fine, but if it's no, what does that mean? It means the under wager will win. Now, associative remote viewing really comes down to three phases: the remote viewing phase, the feedback phase, and then in between there's an analysis judging phase. These are 3 independent sessions. It begins with the remote viewing session where your task, and the cue is describe and sketch your, and you'll be giving what's called a coordinate. It might be called the transcript reference number. Other people give it different names. It is basically a tag for the feedback target. Remember the word target. The feedback target that you will see during your feedback session is really where precognition begins. This is the truth point. But when you begin, as we're going to do today, with your remote viewing session, that is your task. And it really is conceptually simple. Describe and sketch what you're going to see in the future. And you know you will see it because there will be one feedback target associated with that coordinate. Okay. Now, at feedback time, you will know the truth. You just have to get that. That's the truth. Lots of things are going to happen in between. The game's going to happen in between. The judging's going to happen before the game. None of that matters. When you do your feedback session and you'll see the feedback target for that same coordinate, this is where the information comes from that you describe during your remote viewing session. That's the whole principle of associative remote viewing. Your task is to, we've reached our limit. Well, those who came late will have to see the recording. Okay, so I get that. So let's not show that again. Okay, so clearly the fact that we've got so many people bothers me. I'm sorry that they're missing out. Okay. So that's the whole point of associative remote viewing is you know you're going to see the correct target. That's your feedback. That's in the future. The game is in between the remote viewing session itself, and that's your task. In principle, it's actually quite simple. Now, let's look at this in more detail. Here we have an example of a coordinate 654,321, obviously a made-up coordinate and a made-up example, very simple transcript. You're going to be doing a transcript, and I'm going to give you guidance on that for your newbies, but basically once you get your coordinate, you're going to get quiet and leave yourself open for what I call your subconscious to provide information. So you get quiet and listen. It turns out this happens to be, after you do this a few times, one of the easiest in a way things to do, because you just report what you get and you begin to build up a trust that that's going to be, in fact, information from your own future. So this coordinate is associated with your transcript a transcript and your feedback target, right? Your feedback target is what you're seeing in the future. That same coordinate is associated with it, and it's associated with a specific question, and I've already given you the question we're going to be using. So this coordinate is associated with all of those. Now, here we go. This is the question. In the protocol we use, it's an online protocol called Winning Entanglements. So in this approach, now we're getting to the point where the prediction is going to be made, right? You've now made your transcript. You've created it. You're the creator of this transcript, wearing a different hat, either an independent judge or you. And we actually are proponents. I'm a proponent of self-judging. Other people like independent judges. And in fact, this computer program will allow you to do that either way, but everything is done online. The way the program works is your coordinate will be randomly associated with a yes or no answer. Now, in the example we're going to do right here is no. You will not know that, but only the computer knows that. Everything is as blind as possible so that the viewer and the judges, in fact, have to simply use the information they get either from the future or from the transcript. Now, so in this example, we're going to say this coordinate, 654321, happens to be associated with a no answer, okay? And I specifically chose no so you kind of get it's totally random. Now, how do we go about an associative remote viewing making a prediction? The way we do that is the computer is going to select a pair of targets, a pair of potential targets. Let me say that clearly, potential targets, because only one of them will be the target for 654321. And I'm going to be showing you a specific example of that. But the key thing here is that the outcome of the actual game will be then associated with one of those pictures, yes or no. The first of the two randomly chosen pictures is associated with a what we call the winning side. This is also called simply photo site A, and the second one is associated with the losing side. Notice this is yes or no, because we don't know yet whether over or under is going to be the winning or losing side. Now, I'm giving this in words. When you see the example, I think this will become clearer. Now, if no is the answer, and you'll only know that after the game, so if no, and we use the terminology wins, if that's the winning side, so if no actually happens as the answer to your question, then you'll see photo site A, because photo site A is associated with the correct answer to the question, which might be no. And that's the basis of everything that goes on here. I've given you these words. It may even sound somewhat complicated. I'm going to try to simplify it with an answer. But the most important thing for you to get is that you can ignore all of this. All of this is done by the computer. All you have to do is describe your, whatever the particular coordinate is, feedback target. You just have to kind of get that deep in your gut. Your job is to describe the feedback target that you're going to see associated with this coordinate or transcript reference number. But let's now go through an example. Okay, so the truth and fact is out there. It's the feedback target that you're going to see, either target A or B. Now, Okay. The truth, I said, is out there, but you want to know something? The truth is actually in you, right? It comes through you. The information channel is you. So let's now jump forward. In this example, the game has occurred, and what is the feedback target going to be for 654-3-2-1? Well, it could be one of two things. Here's an example of a pair of potential targets. The WeCode has 800 or so of these that have been pre-chosen to be different. So they are as different as possible, and they are one of these will be the target. If photosite A, and that's the name of the first one which comes up, and this is photosite B, if no is actually what happens, in other words, if the answer to the question is, will over be the winning wager, and it says no, then this is the picture you'll see. If it's yes, then this is the picture you'll see. So let's look at this transcript, and we're now going to wear our analysis judging hat, and you're going to be doing this shortly. You're going to be wearing your analysis judging hat, but let's put it on now. And we see structure, silver, hard, hot. Well, all of these match this target. Hot matches that target. And that's typical. Our transcripts that we really want are, bigger than this, have much more information, but still we like them to fit on 1 or 2 pages. In this case, I think we would say no, we would give a higher score to, and we'll talk about scoring a little later as well. But I think you would agree that this is a better match to here, a weaker match to here. Now, so in this case, the game is over, and let's say no wins. Now, what does it mean by no winning? As a judge, when you judged no being the winner, you asked, will over be the winning wager? You said no, so you wager under. So if you were going to wager on this game and you were in Las Vegas, we would have wagered on under. And so the game is over, and here you are, and under in fact wins, and so no is the correct side. No and under were associated. So under wins for this coordinate. The photosite is this, and this is what you would see at feedback time. And so as a judge, this is what in fact you predicted, and we've made a example here where you get yourself a nice hit, and the answer no means under wins. I just simply want to emphasize that. So you're the person who is creating all of this. You create your precognition. I'm now beginning to set you up, hopefully. What we've done up to now is very intellectual. Let's get ourselves to now move into much more of a open, intuitive kind of mindset where it's clear that your consciousness, in fact, can gather information from the future. Turns out that's been scientifically shown. We've been doing this work for many years now, and we know it's true. We just see so many examples, plus science has actually proven it. Here's a perspective on that. It is a kind of telepathy, but it's a telepathy with you. Remember, at remote viewing, your task is to describe and sketch your feedback target at feedback time. Well, here you are at feedback time. In a way, you are reading, in quotation marks, your own mind. It is a kind of telepathy. There's an information transfer that goes on there. So this idea that ARV begins with the feedback session is a really good way of looking at this. And it causes, if you will, information entanglement with the remote viewing session. I use the word cause here because of this retrocausality word, an approach that a lot of scientists are now picking up on. They like to call this retrocausality. And if you think about it starting here, then you can say, well, here is causing information to go back into time to the remote viewer. There are other perspectives that the information is out there all the time. All that's intellectual stuff. Don't worry about any of that. Just describe and sketch information which you feel very comfortable that you're going to be getting from your feedback session. And that's the mindset to begin doing now. There's a kind of communication channel, and I put of some sort here because we don't understand it. Anybody tells you that they understand it, they're kidding yourself. We believe it's related to quantum mechanics, and we have lots of words we use. And as a scientist, I can give you my model, but the fact of the matter is we don't understand it in great detail, but it's clearly there. There is a way information flows through time. The information's out there. You can access it. Now, okay, so we're again just getting now at the idea level. What is it you're about to do? You're about to do a remote viewing session where you're going to set your intention to create a written transcript. So you're going to have a record there that you can use during judging that is a good match to the feedback target. But you're only connecting up with your feedback session. And we're going to be doing that tomorrow. And your feedback session is going to be to improve your remote viewing. The truth is out there. This is where you know what's going to happen. The feedback session is the key. Okay? It's just hard for me to overemphasize that. Lots of things are going to happen between the remote viewing session and what happens tomorrow. But when we actually get the correct answer, but your job is to describe and sketch the feedback target. Now, in addition to intention, this idea of expectation, you just get in a place where you feel comfortable that you're going to give a good description on your transcript and you're going to get a good match to your feedback. And at feedback time, we're going to work there to improve this expectation, to improve our remote viewing, because we know we're in this for the long term. The idea of doing one session, hey, that might be fun, and some of you may decide that's all you want to do, and that's fine. But the real value of precognition and the real personal value is to get into it for the longest term, to do many sessions, because then you really begin to learn about the capabilities of your consciousness, the capabilities of precognition, and that you live in a rather wonderful world where time is much more mysterious than you usually give it credit for. Now, here's our tasking cue, and we're getting ready to go ahead. The tasking cue, as you've seen, is describe and sketch your photo. your feedback target. Okay, so here we are. This has already been set up. There have actually been some people who have done this online. What we are going to do now is each of you are going to be doing a session where the online approach has already been started. I want you to imagine that you are at home. You would have received from a group, the CARVE group, and if you're not in this group now, you will in fact be added to it if you want to. Um, um, in fact, they will be getting their feedback over the internet. So here is the kind of tasking statement you get. It listed the game, and there's a simple link you press here. Once you press that link, you then get a place to put your name. Remember, there are people all over the world who are doing this, and we keep track of their statistics, and their statistics are key to their email address. We're going to be doing one coordinate, and that's a default for the CARVE group. Later, we actually encourage you to do 2 coordinates. Once you do that, you just simply click here. So you're 2 clicks away from getting your coordinate. And this is then what came up for me. So I did this kind of representing all of you, and I'm going to use all of your transcripts and our discussion about it to actually make a prediction, and you'll be able to see that. So here we are. This is what comes up. You now have a coordinate, and the cue is repeated. The tasking is simply to start your remote viewing session when you feel good about doing the session. So we are now going to get ready to do just that. So what I would like you to do is get some pencil and paper, and we'll come back to this actually for real later, because only after you have your transcript, you upload it, and I'm going to show you how to do that, and then you click submit. And so that's the online step where your transcript becomes a permanent part of the record. We're very big on keeping records. So now let's do it for 794-594 now that we know the coordinate. Okay, so we're about to do it now. There's your cue. This is going to be what you're getting yourself set up for. On pencil and paper, pen, whatever. On the top, right now, on the top of a sheet, put your coordinate number, 794-594. I actually suggest you say it out loud. I'm going to have you say it out loud at feedback time. It acts as a kind of a beacon. The number 794-594 is the entangled number with your feedback session. Well, why not say the number out loud and allow that to be another kind of entanglement? So go ahead, do that now. Say 794-594 out loud, because your voice is unique to you. It vibrates in your body. Okay. We're going to do a 10-minute session. I'm going to quiet you down. Open yourself up to receiving information from your feedback session. That's your intention. we're going to be doing something that's called cool down. Joe McMonagle, one of the best remote viewers and ARVers in the world, has called this a very important, perhaps 75% of the discipline. And what he means by that is by right now we're setting this intention to connect up with the feedback session tomorrow morning. Set your expectation for that. You get very quiet. It's like a meditation, and you're opening yourself up to receiving that information. When I'm going to take you through a cool down, and it's going to end with 4, 3, 2, 1, describe. When I say that, just simply be open to receiving information. Put it down on your paper. Just report it. You're acting as a witness. Whatever it is, it's just right. Just get it down on a piece of paper. You may get images. You may hear things. Words may come up. Whatever it is, just put it on your piece of paper. And we'll go for 10 minutes. So get settled in your chair. Get comfortable. Close your eyes. Begin focusing on your breathing. It's a good way to let go of the outer world. Breathe in, breathe out. Let the day-to-day thoughts just float out of your body. Let them float away. Relax. Become more aware of the quiet of your inner world, your inner being. Relax. Find that quiet, peaceful, safe, loving place inside you. An inner sanctuary. Your communication channel with your subconscious, with your higher self, is opening more and more as you relax more and more. Strengthen your intention to describe your 794, 594 feedback target. Expect to see a great match during your feedback session. Feel good about that. Expect to feel good about that. Move your consciousness to your feedback session for 794, 594. Relax. Witness what your sub provides. Four. Three. Two. One. Describe. Okay, there's about a minute left. You might be able to get, if you haven't already finished, one more perception. Okay. Come on back to your normal waking state if you're not already there. At the bottom of your transcript, why don't you write end or EOS for end of session. You've just completed your, maybe for some of you, your first remote viewing session. "10 minutes for many people is way too long. Many people, after their cool down, get a rush of information and they go for maybe 5-6 minutes, 10. Some like more time, especially if they've been trained in one of the remote viewing detail approaches, which are used if you're trying to find a missing person or great detail. You can do that, and that's a marvelous skill, and it can be used here, of course, as well, because we have a target, but we do not need all the fine details. But nevertheless, we have many people who still like to go for the fine details in our targets, which are there, as practice, as tuning their skills, use it or lose it sort of thing. And so some people might go a lot longer. So typically 5 to 10 minutes is enough. I can see, yeah, one person has said it's too short. Just a few minutes. Okay. No audio or visual just vanished. Is that true? Are you not hearing me now? Andrea said that, and okay,
You're fine.
good.
You're fine.
Okay,
Talking
thank you.
about when during the session.
Oh, okay, that's where it was quiet, right. Okay, very good. So congratulations. We've done the session. We now move back and go now to what is fundamentally back to an intellectual state. Analysis and judging is primarily intellectual, but there is a tinge of intuition involved, and a few people are actually experimenting with going to the feedback session as analysis judging. I can't recommend that yet because I don't know if it's working. But the main thing is to be a judge, an honest judge, and as you saw in the previous example, you will be seeing 2 pictures and we'll match your transcript to it. But here's the mindset. And the best way for me to, I think, give you the essence of what judging is by telling you what it is not. And here's a little, what I think very relevant um, cartoon description. We have our skeptic there, Ken, who is telling our remote viewer, I alone know the contents of this envelope. So the remote viewer is now providing a verbal transcript. It's a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange. And the skeptic, who does not understand judging, says, nice try, you little fraud, but that's a long way from an ink drawing of a beaver eating a tangerine. So I hope you get the point, and that is give yourself a little leeway. A charcoal versus ink drawing, those are pretty close, right? A woodchuck versus a beaver, an orange and a tangerine. One of the things which is so wonderful about ARVing is you learn about how your own subconscious communicates. And what you're going to see are a lot of analogies. You're going to see connections which might only be meaningful to you. And in fact, that's why we actually promote self-judging. But others don't agree. So that's a controversial point. Now, let's do it. The next thing is, and we're going to do this for real, is go to the, remember I showed you that tasking statement? I have it here. Here it is as it was sent out to all of the CARV members. So this is now live. We are about to go see the two choices. And you have to know this is really precognition. When you do this and then you upload just as I showed you here, I'll put in my name, one coordinate. Remember, we saw this. We're now doing it for real online. The information is going to the server. Only when you upload your actual transcript will a picture be chosen. Now, I didn't do one. You all did a transcript. So I have, for training purposes and testing and all that, I've made what I call a dummy transcript. You would put up your real one. But you load it from your computer. Most people use their smartphones. Some people use scanners, but somehow you get it into your computer. You browse for it, as I just did here. You browse for it on your computer and simply get it. Okay, most people know how to do that. You know, if you have trouble, you know, I can take you through it, or someone else can take you through it. And then you click submit. Now, when you click submit, the photos from the set are chosen, and then they're going to be shown to you. So now is when you're ready to do the judging. So let's do that now. Okay. So this is, let me make it, I think I can make it bigger. This is the photo site A. Remember, we talked about there being two photos. We're going to be doing judging on those photos. We judge them using this confidence scale that was put together at Stanford Research Institute by three people. Russell Targ was the lead on that paper that was presented. And you will always have access to that. And let me just show you that by clicking on it now. There are other systems out there, but they're all basically the same. They come down to some sort of numerical system. He has put together the words, which I think are really good and give you a good sense of the match. As a judge, you can go from no correspondence, which would be a confidence ranking. We call it a CR of 0. Little correspondence would be 1. To some correct elements, but nothing much against what you expect to get by chance. Now, if you're doing this for the first time, you don't yet have a good sense of what chance is, but if you think about things like, say you just get one color correct and maybe you have a little shape that's correct or something of that sort, um, it just things you'd expect that you might get by chance from time to time. And after you do several of these, you'll get a much better feeling for that. By the time you get up to a CR of 3, you now have a better mixture. Say your perceptions, maybe a third of them or something like that, or more might be correct, but you still have incorrect elements. But maybe you're willing to say, I might have made some contact with the target. Some real information from the feedback target might have been shared with me. Okay, so you're saying, hey, you know what? Here, the communication channel was open enough that it gave me some information. 4 is good. Here we say we have really good correspondence with several matchable elements. I mean, something that you just clearly would not expect by chance, but still some incorrect information. Now, 5 is really good, and he begins to bring in these kind of words: unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. And we've had lots of discussions on that, including with him. And these are words, but and they're vague. Everybody will define them somewhat differently. Different people looking at the same transcript with the same picture, some will give it a 5, some will give it a 4. Differences of 1 are common. Because what's unambiguous to one person may not be unambiguous to another, unique, matchable. But here you're at the level where you feel really comfortable that you got information through your communication channel. A 6, in addition to getting the kind of information we get in remote viewing, which tends to be the more general kind of information, and maybe some colors and stuff like that, you're now getting analytical information. You might name the function of the target, or for 7, you might even name the target directly. We've already seen a chandelier. Somebody who is really getting information might say chandelier. But frankly, that's discouraged. The communication channel is at much more fundamental level, the kind of thing where you get what are called gestalts, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Now, the wagerable, a lot of what we do, as you know, is connected to making this real, making this an application you can use, so you wager on it, whether it's sports or financial. In this system, in we, a 3.5 is considered wagerable. So at 3, we're at the point where, yeah, we had some psychic information, but we'd say, not enough to wager. A 4, we felt really comfortable. A 5 was really, really good, or above. But if, as a judge, you say 3.5, that says you'd be willing to put a few bucks on the fact that this, in fact, is the feedback target. So that's the TARG scale. Now, when I click this, we will see the second target. Some people actually would do that now. Other people, you should always judge them independently, but nevertheless, some people look ahead because they can't help themselves. And I'm going to do that now because I want to make some other points. So this is photosite B. Remember, there are always going to be two photosites. Now you're a judge, you're intellectual. There's no reason you can't see both of these. Do you realize how many images you see in a between the next 24 hours until our next webinar session? A lot. And okay, so one of these two pictures are going to be your feedback. Your task was to describe and sketch the feedback picture you see. So you're going to look at your transcript now and look for things like what are called gestalts. The gestalt is the kind of big picture image, a big picture story, if you will. For example, here the gestalt of this picture would be things like round, man-made, circles, you know, repeating, and then of course you might get the kind of shapes that you see here, which notice is a very different gestalt from this one. This is inside, this is outside, this is water, this is, I don't know what other gestaltish words, well, certainly a ship, old, wreck, the kind of big picture words that you might say. Chandelier is one of the very last things you would get. Shipwreck, something like that, is probably what we would call maybe too high level, maybe old. Words like that may come in, but also, again, the geometry. One of the things you always get, the geometry. Sometimes targets are things you might not even know what they are, but they'll have distinct geometries. Okay, so what I would like you to do, are there any questions? I have not stopped for that. Are there any questions, comments? Because the next thing I'd like to do, you can all turn on, you all have the ability to turn on your speaker. So at this point, feel free to do that. But what I'd like you to do now is I've got an Excel sheet open on my other monitor. And what I'd like each of you to do is judge this photosite, photosite A, and then in the chat box, after you judge it from 0 to 7, and let me get the TARG scale open again. I think I have that here. Oh, can I break that out? Okay, so let's see if I can do this. Now, normally, you remember how I indicated to you the remote viewing session is actually easier than some of the other sessions. And the judging in many ways is, for most of us the hardest session of all to do, because it's got vagueness in it and judgments. But what I would like you to do now, boy, I'm having trouble getting this over here, sorry. What I'd like you to do now is judge your transcript versus photo site A, and then in the chat box, simply put an A and then a number, and that'll be the confidence ranking. And I am going to, but if you can, send it just to me, because I don't want to influence the other one. So if you go to the chat box, which I hope you can find, if not, I'll help you find it, send it to the organizer. Okay. And if some of you already feel comfortable with A and B, you can send them both along. Just make it clear so I can get my table, which is A and which is B. And I see someone has done that, and that's fine. I see you asked the question, Hector. Yes, each person gets a unique pair of targets. Here, of course, we're all sharing a target because we're all under my name, but each username gets a unique target. Okay, and then after you finish the A, go ahead and do the B.
Hey, Marty.
Uh-huh.
I have a question. I don't want to confuse anyone, but I don't think we've ever talked about sort of what some of us call the aperture opening, and how wide, how much information you want at one time. How a lot of us start out looking for just very simple elements like color, like get a color, get a taste, and the very last thing that we want, because we want to go through the stages, and the last thing that we want is full ideas and images and pictures, like, and it's hard to do in a 10-minute session, but I don't think we've ever talked about getting the simple data first before you move on to more complex ideas.
Yeah, I thought about talking about all of that even here, and different people have different approaches. It's like once you open yourself up in ARV, now these are for newbies, people who may not have had training. I just wanted them to get whatever they got. Let me fill out that table and we will talk about that, because I think that is important. Because generally what people get, in fact, we ought to get some feedback from some of the new people here, is that they will automatically get the big picture stuff.
That brings up two interesting topics. Like, first we have the I don't know what do we call it, the newbie effect. New
Right.
people have such great sessions for I don't know how long before we start seeing the decline effect. But as far as, getting a whole bunch of data at once, I think the idea behind that was to sort of limit AOL um, by limiting how much, you kind of purposely breathing through a straw before you start, you know, getting more stuff in. So
Mhm.
I don't know. It's hard to explain, I guess.
Well, yeah, all of this is hard to explain. Let me just say, Hector, um, the judging you're going to do, you're not going to get um, to upload the transcript. That will come in the email. That will come in the email. You're not going to get it here. We may, if you want to email me a transcript to look at it. In fact, if any of you have really good transcripts and you want to email them to me, feel free. We may be able to look at a few of them. But right now, I'm trying to put together this table. I probably should have asked somebody else to do that, but okay. Matthew O'Brien, man, gotta be 3. Julie Gregg is a B of 2. Okay, you guys are doing great. In fact, if you want to ask questions, there are other people here, because I really do want to focus on this, who could probably answer them. So some of you newbies, feel free. Greg, and then I've got Glenn. 2, 3. Okay, people are still adding, which is great. And again, after you do A, maybe I should, let me see if I can put up the B. Here. So this is the B picture now. Janice is a 2. 8.5. Ken. For some of you, this is downtime, but be thinking of questions or comments. You continue looking at the transcripts. It turns out it's amazing how sometimes there are subtle things there that you won't recognize until later, like at feedback time. Glenn said, just did, and I didn't see the rest of what you said, Glenn. Paul, 1. Okay, now one of the things I'm seeing here is I'm putting in these numbers, which is very good, is one of the things we pay attention to, and you should pay attention to as a judge, is if there's a difference between the two numbers. That's a really good indicator. We try to make the photo choices different from each other. And so, if you're really on target, that difference might show up in the confidence rankings. But it's hard to choose targets which are as different as we'd like all the time. Viewers sometimes find what's common. Okay, Paul. Got Paul. I've got Artemis. Okay. Artemis is a 3. Artemis is a 3. Don't have enough. Okay. Tony, you're saying you have enough, Tanya, enough elements of both. 4 elements on B. Okay, and Jane, you didn't give a score, but let me ask you this. Jane said to me, and this is worth everybody knowing, um, um, okay, my email address one of you asked for is that. So anybody who had a session they want to share, especially a really good one, it'd be good to share the good ones. I put my, oh, that just went to you, Tanya. Why don't you share that with everyone, Tanya? Um, anyway, it's Marty at p-i-a.com. You all have seen that before. Newbie has clearer vision. Yeah, I'll do that. But Jane, Jane asked the question, she had 4 elements in B and nothing in A. So nothing in A, I can give you a 0, right? That's pretty clear. Now the question, and this is a generality, but roughly reasonable, is you got 4 elements in B, but out of how many? You know, if it's 4 out of 40, that's 10%. I would say at 10% you would give yourself a very low score, you know, maybe a 1. If it's 25%, who knows, still low, maybe that's what I expect from experience, maybe even just chance. If you start getting half of them right, and they're strong rights, you know, as you do this, you've already got a sense of, well, maybe this is on, maybe it isn't. But if you get 50% good hits, good matches of your elements, I would give that maybe a 3.5 in general. Now, especially if you got elements of the Gestalt. You know, if all you got were colors, but you didn't get a Gestalt, the Gestalts are considered really important because they usually come through. But just rough rule of thumb is you're not getting really interesting until you get about half of the elements. Okay, so why don't you give me a number, Jane, based on that? Right now I've got nothing for you, but I've got everybody else's, so I'm going to share them here now. I can bring over this. And I think I can bring over this. Let me grab it. Okay, I might have missed you, Julie. I don't see a B for you. If you've got it, you can just tell me what it is. And Hector, why don't I have you? I think you asked questions, but didn't give me numbers. Okay, so this is what I have. Please, you know, update. If I made mistakes, let me know. But this is very interesting because we've got some 5s and 4s, which are strong. Here's one, a 3.5, which is marginal. On this side, we've got 2 4s. Now notice, as a group manager, so that's the role I'm playing here. I'm group managing this webinar, and so I get to see, and now all of you get to see, so you're now wearing a group manager hat, what everyone did in terms of their rankings. And the group manager will also and does have access to the transcripts as well. So the interesting point here is that, and we almost always do see this, some people go on one side, some people are stronger on the other side. In this case, Julie, how did you rank this one? I'd love to know compared to the 5. Notice here there's a separation of 3. Here there's a separation of 2, which is strong. Here there's only a separation of 0.5. So I wouldn't really as the group manager and as a person who's going to be making one prediction, I would not give that as much credit. And so in terms of, let's say, strong sessions, I would say this is a strong session.
Hey, Marty.
Uh-huh.
Julie typed in the chat box. Her scores are reversed. B is 5 and A is 0.
For who?
For Julie.
Oh, for Julie. Okay. That's important to know. Any other mistakes like that? Let me know.
I guess Tanya emailed her.
Julie, A is a 0. Oh, okay.
Session.
Um,
She didn't know how to judge it because she had elements of both targets in her session, which is normal.
Yeah, we always see that. And so you judge them one at a time. So the elements that match on one side, you mark that as, hey, good, that's a match on that side. And you see how many you get. You see if you got the gestalt on that side. And the ones you didn't get, because you have them on both, you ignore. And then you go to the other one, and different ones will match. But the ones that overlap on both, you just give credit to both pictures. But so sometimes you get scores like 3.5 and 4, but nevertheless, even though some elements might match, you would like to think there'd be more of a dominant one on one side versus the other.
For these two targets, what was interesting for me is I until you pointed out, you may not see it, but the parallel lines on the chandelier, and then there's parallel lines at the top of the ship on the bow. And that actually confused me for my session because that's what I drew. And we know that orientation can be a problem when you're doing an RV session. You don't know what orientation you're drawing anything. So that was the hard thing for me to decide. In fact, if we were doing this for like Carve or for one of our groups, I might pass on this. But I did it just for this so we could kind of get some scores. But yeah, that was a tough one to judge. Oddly enough, just because of that one shape that I drew.
Okay, well, let me please comment on that because at first blush, this would really be considered a good contrasting pair, especially because of the gestalt differences, inside, outside,
I agree. Yeah.
Dry water. And yet the point I want to make is you're now the perfect example of how, for reasons which we don't quite understand, and it's worth, quote, talking, quote, unquote, to your subconscious to ask, why is it picking up those sorts of things and communicating that as opposed to others, and say, hey, thanks for giving me. Sure, it's accurate on both of them, but how about next time giving me things which are different? Because I believe you can work. Now that we know we have this communication channel and it works, John, you've seen so many good stuff yourself personally. You can now have conversations with your communication channel. As you're opening it up, the communication channel will get better and better both ways. And you can have, meditation sessions with it. Okay.
James in the chat box rated his session.
Okay. Let's see. A of 5 and a B a 1, and that's James. Good. Oh, I didn't have you here yet, James? Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, before I make a group manager judgment, let's just keep talking about this. Another thing I want to say is, notice we have strong sessions on both sides. A 5 and a 1, a 0 and a 5, a 5 and a 2, a 4 and a 2, a 4 and a 1. All of those are strong sessions, and some are on different sides. I recommend, and this also is somewhat controversial, but I believe if you were to wager on this, you should wager in your direction. And we'll be showing what direction that is in a moment, the yes versus no, up versus down direction. You should wager in that direction. Um, so I don't know how to say it any clearer. A lot of people feel like obligated, like they're being disloyal to the uh, um, group if they go opposite to it. ARV is very personal. The value is personal. Yes, we like to think that we can make a better judgment based on the group, but that really is secondary. And so far, the evidence has not shown that. The group hit rates are not higher than any of the individual rates. And I'm suffering with that. I do not understand why. But I think that's an interesting phenomenon. It's almost like the group is one consciousness. Um, and I think there may be some information in that. But but my recommendation is, if you're in Vegas with us and you were to be wagering, um, uh, you should wager with yourself. For one thing, it shows a confidence level that you're beginning to trust yourself. Your subconscious is beginning to see, oh, you're really going to act on this, and so you should go in your direction. Now, that's my personal recommendation, and as I say, it's somewhat controversial. Okay, so.
I guess there's two Julies, so you might want to
Oh,
list. So
then
there's
that might
another.
be this. Oh boy. Oh, Julie. Okay. Oh my. How do I tell you apart? Oh, there's a no. I see. There's some Julie here with two E's and one with one E. Is that right? No, Julie, and then Julie B equals 5. Okay, we have a problem here. Our Julie's, I need to clarify this. How about going in the chat box with a last name or last initial as well? Because I can't distinguish. And you can put it in the main chat box or organizer. So maybe one was a 5 and a 0, and the other is. This is interesting. See, online, there is no problem. Oh, Julie Beeman, okay. And you had the B of 5, so you're here. Okay, so that one's correct. And then this Julie, you still with us, Julie? I see an A of 0 and no B. Okay.
Oh, Marty,
Yeah.
this is Norm.
Hey, Norm.
Hey, I couldn't get through in the chat box, but I wanted to tell you that I scored A as 2.5 and B as 3.5.
Terrific, Norm. Thank you. That works. Oh, wait, I did that backwards. 2.5 and 3.5. It's amazing how hard this is when I'm being watched. Somehow there's extra pressure. Okay, here and here. 2.5, 3.5, 3.5. Okay. So, let's take a look at anybody.
I emailed you my session if you want to use it. It's really basic for a 10-minute deal, but
Okay, well, let's see who else. You got a 4. Let me see. Did Janice email me one? One of the 5s. I would love to look at the 5 because
Yeah.
getting a 5 and understanding a 5 is one of the really important things to talk about because we go up to 6 and 7, but that gets into the analytical overlay stuff and naming. The 5 is really a very, very, in my opinion, a strong session. So let me go here and see. Okay, Artemis, what was your score, Artemis? We only have so much time, so I just want to use it on the sessions which were the strongest. Okay, yours is a 5. And I just saw yours first. James, you got a 5 as well. Ooh. And Artem, oh, and they're both on the same side. Oh, and Janice has a 5 too, I notice. And Julie, okay. I don't know if I'm going to be able to look at all these, but okay. Let's do them in the order that they came in just because. Okay, so James, you got a 5 on your first transcript. And God, I got so many things open. Okay, there it is. Okay. No, well, this is not, oh, this is a 5 from something else, not from ours today. But that's kind of cool. Okay, so this is an example of a 5, obviously for some other picture, because that's not one of our...
That is for today, Marty. You can see the coordinates. 794594.
Okay. Okay, but he's showing this picture in the background. Was this from an earlier carve that you did on your own? No?
It's probably just doing it outside.
Okay. Can you talk to me, James? Well, I mean, but I wouldn't call that a 5 against either of our 2 is why I'm a little confused here. Okay, let me pick up.
I agree. That's a high score for that.
Yeah, that's not like either of the 2, so that's why I think he did something else. Tanya got elements of both. Let's not look at that now. How come I don't see Tanya here? She probably didn't give a score because she wasn't happy. Artemis was next. Let's look at his. This is my transcript. Formula B. Shocked to get a bullseye with an object hand me as well as constant. I would have thought B was accurate, but I feel better by A. And now you know why judging is the hardest thing. Okay, Artemis.
Yeah, that's what Tanya's saying. She doesn't know how to judge her session.
Right. It's tough, and and that's why we have some of these webinars, so at least you don't feel bad when it's tough, and we'll talk about them. Let's see. Why can't I get this over here? Okay. So here we are, Artemis. You got the spinning coins, which you said. And so that's why you gave the A the 5, right?
I gave it I gave it the 5 for a couple of reasons. The biggest was I had an ace of spades hanging midair, so just the object hanging midair. That was a big
Right.
deal.
Okay, you're
And
right.
then
Right.
underneath that, there were the coins that were spinning, but they were spinning in place, which indicated circular or circles of some type.
Mm-hmm.
and that related to the light bulbs.
Okay.
Then waves in reality, waves came up a couple of times. So light is also comprised of waves.
Right. And of course, so is water. So.
True, true, that's true. I had
And that's
other
and no, and
things.
I was going to say, and you, that's what I was just checking here, and you gave the other side
Mhm,
a 3, so you took that into account. So that's just
mhm.
right. Hmm.
I just felt again like with the with B, there was the single object, and I indicated that there was lots of space, lots of perimeter, room to breathe, but just that the hanging in midair came through so clearly with the Ace of Spades. That's why I gave A such a high rating.
Okay, that's very good. I would agree with that. Maybe 4.5 or 5. Anybody else want to, John, you've done a lot of these. How do you feel?
Um, it's interesting. Well, I'm glad she put 3 for the other session because those lines she marked that say waves in reality. If you look at that ship, I was just talking about that ribbed structure on the bow of the ship. It looks like that, but it also looks like the chandelier. And then she's writing waves. I don't see like a major gestalt here written down though. Like there's no water, indoor, outdoor.
Oh,
Um,
hanging is pretty good.
hanging.
I think hanging in
Oh, hanging.
midair, that's, I
That's
think
pretty
that
good.
was
I like
real
that.
good actually. Yeah. Yeah. No, I like
Especially with
that.
the coins. The coins and the spinning. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And again, I heard what you're saying. And so you're saying, well, maybe I would have gone with a 4. And it's important to understand that this is the most difficult aspect of what's going on, the analysis judging. This is what the CIA had to face with all the time. You've got a transcript. Now, what do you make of it? Because they're rarely right on.
This is
Okay,
where I
very
like.
good. Thank you.
This is where I like what you said about judging is mostly analytical, but it's a little bit intuitive too because you're
That's right.
the only one that knows what you were feeling during your session, and so maybe something sticks out that'll help you differentiate.
Right. Well, you did a little bit of both, Norm, right? I appreciate you sending it, but we're approaching 2 hours. Let's look at Julie. She gave herself a 5. And she gave herself a 5, Julie Beeman, on the other side. So that'll be interesting because I'm sitting here having to decide what to do. Okay, so there's Julie's. Okay, Julie, I see you wrote stuff, but why don't you tell us? Is your mic working? No? Okay, I can read. I can read it or just look at it. But what you said was possible matches for B, flat, gray, gritty, sandy, wet, pass through, red, the waterline, drawings, 3 lines are the lines along the hull of the boat. The 2 half circles is the line through them is the boat pieces. Okay, so that's how you interpreted that. Let's see if we can look at them. Okay. Doing this online in real time like this is sort of cool. You guys are able to see the screen okay, I hope. Okay, so I understand what you said. The sandy, certainly, the sky. The red, I guess you're seeing this is red there. Pass through, that looks like the waves. Okay. Okay, I don't know if, well, the sky. My first feeling on that one, well, the sandy is pretty good in the sky. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah,
Actually, a lot of
flat.
things, everything, I mean, it's like every one of them matches. Maybe gray, but, there's got to be some gray in there somewhere. But that, also when you think about these, you say, you can tell some of the strong ones, gritty, sandy, wet. Yeah, this is every single pass through. I guess maybe the waves passing through here, you could interpret it. Not bad. The square, this has probably certainly more square than that. Very good, Julie. I would agree with that. How about you, John?
Yeah, it seems like she was looking at photosite B
Hmm.
for sure. Because we got the water gestalt, and sandy,
Yeah.
and gritty, other stuff that doesn't apply to A. But
Now here she's
I'm not
got
sure how to
the
not sure how to
circles.
interpret the drawings, but yeah.
Yeah, the drawing, the only thing here is the circle, but with a rectangle inside, square. I do see a square here, but yeah. How did you rank it versus
Did she?
a,
I don't see an ideogram. Did she do an ideogram?
I
I don't
guess
think so.
not.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. We can talk about that. Let me just see what you gave. You gave that a 0. Just because of the circle, I would give it a 1. And the
And
straight lines, you know, I don't see any triangular shapes unless I look real hard. But I would have given that a 1, Julie. And that's again no big deal. But the circle is enough to give it a 1. But still less than random. Okay, very good. Now let's go. Um, let's go to the next step. Well, the next step puts the pressure on me. I have to make a decision here so that we can finish the judging, right? We haven't put in the judging. So what I'm going to do is highlight what I think are the strongest ones. So these 5 are clearly strong. This 4 is strong. We didn't look at it. We didn't look at all of these, but there's a large difference here. And based on the judging, that's strong. And then on this side, I've got that. I've got that. See, this one I would not consider strong because there were clearly elements and on both sides and the same thing here. Okay, so I'm going to go for side A. And I'm going to give, so this is GM collection. I don't know what word to use. I'm sure there's a better one. But looking at all of these, I would give this side maybe the 5. Let's see if I take everything, but I don't do that anymore. And I think I'm hoping the group stuff will come up better because of this. I'm really giving more weight to the better ones rather than averaging or just counting everything over 3.5. I'm really looking at the higher ones as a group manager. And here, I'm going to give this a 4. That'll make a judgment. If I was an individual, those would be too close to wager on it really, but we all understand what's happening here. So now, having done all that, I have to go back to this page. So now, here's where this judging thing all started. Now, typically, the judging phase, here, because we talked about it, we spent a lot of time, and I think that's really appropriate because the judging is so important. It's a judge who's making the decision on a direction. And then all you do is put in 5, 4, Okay, so this is now my, right? I put this in as an individual in the carve group. I put in a 5 and a 4, and then you get to put comments. And these comments are very important because they go to the carve group manager. Um, um, and sometimes those comments help him give a little bit more weight to one transcript versus another. So he gets to see the transcripts, the confidence rankings, and the comments here. Okay, so this was day 1 of a webinar. Photo site A had 3 CR equal 5. Now the other thing I want to say about this, you as a viewer have access to these comments as well. So not only do they help the general manager, you build up a record which is saved. That's the beauty of doing all this stuff online. We can save everything in our database and you have access to that to help you learn as things move forward. Okay, so that's it. In terms of the online phase, that is now done. We click submit. And we predicted over. So the computer in its internals predicted over, and that was with photo site A. Remember, there was all kinds of randomness in there. I explained it to you intellectually. You do not have to worry about any of that as the intuitive, psychic precogger who is doing this work. So there we are. The prediction is over. If you went the other way, for example, right, Julie, who we saw, if you're going to wager on this, Julie, you would want to go under based on your personal one. And so would you, John. And I think these other two should just pass based on their personal. But, you know, having heard everything you have here, you can decide as you wish. But in terms of personal, I would really, from the wagering standpoint, I would consider this a pass. From the standpoint of how the predictions go into the WE database, this would actually be predicted as an up. Okay. Questions, comments? I have one thing which I can leave you with, which is I have been led to believing everything that we're doing, and my focus is really education about precognition, which is, and really bigger than precognition, the capabilities of consciousness, which are so much greater than we currently believe, such that once this really gets appreciated by society, we will be through a paradigm shift. And we're just at the beginning of it now, the early stages of it now, in my opinion. And what that really will lead to is health, wealth, and wisdom for many, many more individuals and society as a whole. So this is phase 1. Any more questions, comments? Tanya, I guess I'm willing to do that now. You guys, we're essentially done. I will do what, take a look at Tanya's next. You're welcome to stay. The next thing which is going to happen is the game. And then tomorrow morning, same time, same place, we will talk about feedback, which, as you all know, is, not my opinion, it's been clearly demonstrated, is the absolutely key important session. It's where precognition begins. So I'll see you tomorrow morning if you choose to leave now, and if not, let me go back to my email and let's look at, okay, Greg sent his in as well. Okay, so let's look at yours, Tanya. Oh, it came in pretty fuzzy. Let's see if, oh, well, I can certainly see the shapes and you can tell us the words. Okay. Okay, so let me get back to the pictures. Oh, there's the shipwreck. Let me see if this will take me back.
She doesn't have a mic. She's
Oh,
typing.
okay.
Typing.
Okay, why don't you read it? I'm going to see if I can get that picture back.
She typed in warm light, high ears.
Okay, well, we know the two pictures by now, so I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, so she wrote it warm, light, high ears. Did light come in as a separate word? It wasn't
They're all
warm.
separate words. Yeah, all of those are separate words.
Okay, because actually sometimes that makes a difference. If it's one phrase that there's warm light around, that's different than the word warm and the word light. So obviously light goes towards chandelier. Oh, I see him here. Yeah, okay, I can now read him. I got it. I like the round for the chandelier.
It looks like a light bulb.
Yep, it does. But again, it's interesting because Julie got this as well, a rectangle. I mean, this looks like the ship in terms of geometry. Is that sketch a person riding a wave or something?
It looks like it. If that were an ideogram, I would call it a structure, though. So it's hard to.
Well, she said yes. So that was your feeling, Tanya, when you did this, was that this was a person on top of something? On top of something. You didn't get the sense of a wave? Did you get a sense of water when you did the wiggly lines?
Yeah, is that water gestalt or is that?
Yes, you got the sense of water here. Okay. And that is very classical. When people draw this, the subconscious, almost universally, and there are always exceptions to everything, but almost universally that means water. Got the sense of water on top. That's this. You're saying you got the sense of water with these squiggly lines. Is that correct? Yes, this here. Just want to make sure we're on the same wavelength here. Okay, I'm going to assume we are. Okay. So how would, let's see, I don't know how I would judge that. Obviously, I like the water. There weren't people in any of them, but this sort of looks like a person maybe on maybe the ship. It's got the shape of the ship.
Marty, I think I have audio now. I think that is the shape of the ship, and I did see something on top of it. And if I remember the picture correctly, there was something that would have made me think that might have been a person from far away. I think there was an antenna or something on the point of the ship or something tall.
Okay. So how did you end off judging this?
Well, I didn't. I was confused.
Oh, okay. I
Or
see.
both.
I see. Okay, that's why we're here. But with what you just said, um, and everything else, I mean, the only thing that seems to match the chandelier is this looks like a light bulb. And the roundness of it standing alone, well, and you said light. So, I mean, that certainly gets you up to at least 3. Um,
Okay.
maybe not
And I thought it was warm too. I feel
3.5
like that.
because notice you have 2 good matches, but you have a lot of misses. So your percentage is, a lot less than 50%. On the other side, um, um, well, you've got what looks like the ship. I mean, you've got the shape there. You've got the water. Um, you've got the ship here. You're sort of getting closer to 50%, but this is a gestalt. I personally like gestalts. I give credit for gestalts. So,
Is that a gestalt or a drawing though? Because the chandelier has horizontal lines also, parallel horizontal lines.
they're pretty straight. She didn't draw straight lines like I think you did. Um, and I might not give the light. I don't know. This is a tough one. You like the ones that are clearer. Okay, right now here's my feeling, and then John, you can give yours. Anybody else can give theirs. Um, uh, I think I might give this a 2.5 for the chandelier and a 3.5 for the ship. So I might marginally go for the ship on this one. This sea even looks like a wave besides everything else. It's like riding the waves. Um, and her feeling when, Tanya said it is she made a connection with the ship. That was her personal judgment. What would you do, John?
I would probably go with a 2 and a 3.
Yeah.
There's elements of both, but not enough data for me to actually wager on it. I do like the water gestalt. That kind of pushes it from a pass to leaning in the ship direction.
At
But
least the 3. Mm-hmm.
both of them could be warm. They both had light. The ship is a vertical structure, but then so that matches high possibly, but you have a chandelier which definitely matches high,
Mm.
and
Oh, that's
so
true. I didn't
I
mention
would push
that.
for more data. For me, I would probably use it as a pass or score it low enough where it wasn't a wager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I lean towards the B site probably.
Okay. Okay, so I hope that helps you, Tanya. And I do agree. We do try to get more data than this on a page, and sometimes it just doesn't come, and that's fine. But it looks like everybody got something. And notice they did get the gestalts and stuff like that, which tends to come first, which you in many ways should expect to come first. Um, uh, okay, so Greg, were you the one who said, oh, it was Glenn. Oh, there you are. Let's do Glenn. I don't know if Greg is still here. Glenn sent me something. Greg sent me something first. I'm trying to do these in order, and I do have to leave at 11:30. Greg, are you still here? Well, and he gave it a 3 and a 2, so let's not do his. Let's do Glenn, since he asked specifically. Okay. So Glenn, you're still here, right? Yeah. Oh, Greg, you're here too. Let me I just don't have time to do everybody. I'm sorry. I do have to leave here at 11:30. Let me see what the scores are. I mean, I think it does make sense to use the time for the higher scored one. Low score ones are just that. They tend to be random. So
I would probably judge mine as a pass, Marty, if that helps you.
Yeah, well, also for now I'd like to go with the newer people. But wait, Greg was a 3 and a 2. Okay, so you're really asking should it be a 3? And Glenn did a 2 and 3. Okay, on opposite sides. Okay, so let's see if we can do both of those. Oh, and then Janice is coming in here too. And maybe we'll be able to find time tomorrow to do that. Though you know what, during the feedback session, we also talk about the transcripts. So I'll be able to talk about them then. Because we talk about the very first thing we always say is, which one did I end off opening? I don't even know who I did here. Whose is this? I think that's Glenn's. Glenn, is that yours? Yes. Okay. Okay. And then we'll do the other one and then we'll end it. But the first thing we always want to do in feedback is review, if you do self-judging, and because there's a lot to be learned from that, is we review the judging phase too to see if we made a mistake there or could have done better or whatever. Okay. Okay, good. So you counted. Okay, well that's, okay, now the two, okay, I guess I don't understand. If you've got a mic, you might be able to, Joe McMonagle? Okay, so that's Joe McMonagle's approach.
Hiya, good evening, or good morning.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hear you well.
Perfect. So the first image, what happens is I go down on each time I go in and concentrate on it. So the first image I got, which generally is the first image, is rusty, something turning, with two straight lines and something in there. So that's that little image. And then what I do is I rate it on 2 is in the photo. So you've got photo A and B in the columns on the right.
Right.
So
okay.
If it's 0, it's not in the photo. 1, it could be, and then 2 is definitely in there. So because I put rusty, I saw something rusty, I put 2 for the boat.
Right. And this is a 0?
And that's a 0 for the chandeliers, because I know there was something circular, but I had a feeling it was more like a propeller that I could see.
Okay.
An old rusty propeller. But anyway, so the second image I went down, I've got rainbow colors. I saw all of the colors of light. I didn't see white lights, I just saw the colors. But I was thinking, why can I see the colors? And obviously because it's the light of the chandelier.
Right.
And then the third time I went down, I saw a man, something like a rusty serrated metal something, but there was a man next to it or something next to it and I couldn't see. So because it's the rusty metal, I saw that as the boat again too. And then when I went down to sound, I actually saw on the boat, I saw the water and that little, I thought it was a man, but it isn't. It was that black thing on the boat. Do you see? I thought it was a cliff. But that was, I was trying to get sound. And then I saw a hang glider, which I don't know why I saw. At the very bottom, you see that? That was sounds. Yeah, there it says, actually there I had sounds, and now I saw water, but there's the hang glider, and that's why I gave them both 0.
Okay, and you saw this, does this say water?
Yeah, that says water, and then there's a black thing which is on the boat, is actually on the front of the boat, and I couldn't see what it was. I thought it was a man. No, the next to it, just that big black blob. Yeah, there. Yeah. That's the bit on that. I saw that, but I thought it was some form of man, but I couldn't see it. It might have been on a cliff or something along those lines. Okay. But yeah. So.
Okay, very interesting. Let me ask you this: you didn't think of this as water?
I saw it as no, it was definitely, it was like a rusty, something clamping. It was like, something like teeth of something coming down.
Okay.
Well, maybe that's what I saw. I mean, that's.
No, I understand. That was your, and I'm just, okay, so this is terrific. So I mean, you got
That's
three
where
twos here, and let's see how you judge that.
I said 2 and 3. So on here, what I've got is I've got 3 and
Yeah,
6. So I add them all up, and because it's out of 10, because you've got
right,
kind of 5 items, and there's 2 per item. So there's actually
right.
3 out of 10, and then 6 out of 10. But if you rate it like you just did there, that should have been, I did put 5 because there's only 5 items on the sheet.
Right.
But because I rate them 2 out of a category of 2 each time, if it's on there or not, I thought, well, it's got to be out of 10.
Well, look, the how to get the final number that goes in and
Yeah.
connecting it to the confidence ranking and all that, um, you just have to work out yourself. But I look at this and I would say I would have gone with the 3.5 probably instead of a 3 on the
Okay.
ship. That's my judgment. But I hope you've heard over and over again that the differences of one are very common.
Yeah.
And looking at all of this, even this one, the chandelier, just seems a little not as strong as the ones with the ship. But I would have anyway. That you asked for my judgment and
No.
comments, and I
To
like
be honest,
I like very much your approach here, though. Going down each time, coming back up, getting what you get, and then during the judging phases, judging them individually. You wrote Joe McMonagle here. What Joe
what?
actually, go ahead, tell me, yeah, what did that mean?
No. I just smiled because it was a conversation.
Yeah, okay, because Joe has his own approach of doing it, and it's not too different from this in that he would do the following. He would first rate the gestalt of the whole transcript, and he gives 50% of the credit to that ranking. So if I look at all of this, I definitely see more with the ship, with the water, and I see wavy stuff here, and and you went rusty and all of that. So I would say, yeah, you captured that gestalt more than the other. And then he does sort of a counting of how many of these match versus each one, and he gives it a ratio. That's when I was talking about the 50% or so, that goes back to Joe McMonagle's approach. So he would give a 0 or a 1. So you do a 0, 1, or 2, nothing wrong with that. So you got an approach which is a little bit different, but I'm telling you, they all come down to the same thing, which is to decide how strong it is, and then you can relate it to the Park scale pretty easily, based on the feelings and everything. Okay, so now let me go and do,
Good morning.
yeah, wait.
Do you want to say anything about?
Oh,
I have some questions. There were some questions in there where people had a lot of elements of both targets, and maybe they didn't have. They didn't focus on their feedback target as much, because right now we're showing them how to judge between two targets, and that could have affected their sessions. And
well, of course, that's
they
what
really
we
want
hope.
to see one elements of one target more than the other.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we can do some of that right here. It looks like Greg only got words. I didn't see an attached picture. And you should know that that happens. Some people only get words. I've seen some really, really good transcripts, a 6. I've never seen a 7 with just words, but I saw a 6 of what I thought was a legitimate 6, which had nothing but words. So the subconscious just provides words, or it provides images that the person just feels all they can do is turn it into words and can't sketch it. And I don't know if that's the case here, Greg, but if it isn't, some people have that. Okay, so let's just remembering the pictures outside, so that clearly goes for number 2. Object, photo, round, brown. Do you have a mic, Greg? Oh, you didn't have paper and pencil. Next time, paper and pencil. You, you have to be armed, Greg. Um, okay. So the second one, you did see object, pile of
Really? I did
log,
it.
pile of logs, men in hard hats, vest,
Those
row of
scores seem backwards.
trees. To you, yeah, blue sky. Yeah.
And outside.
And the outside. But let's see what objects, lower right side, round. Well, the round and brown. It had a brown background, as I recall anyway. Men in hard hats, line from upper left to lower right. Vest facing away. Row of trees, weeds. Yeah, well, Greg, this does not look strong enough to be either of them above 3. John's first impression was because of outside and blue sky, maybe the B should be a 3. But again, within 1, you might have had reasons. Yeah, and this is fun stuff. Matthew, take care. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Um, uh,
Yeah,
and
I like to weigh heavily on gestalts.
right.
And the outside is definitely a gestalt.
Yeah, right. And the blue sky with some clouds. So I understand, and I like that as well. But whether or not that's enough to get it over 3 isn't clear because nothing else matched. But gestalts are very important. Okay, Greg. You know what? I don't know if there's anything else I can say about that. Greg changed CR to a 4 on photo A. Wow, tell us why. Because we're leaning the other way. So the chandeliers, you would have given it a 4. Of the chandelier. Because the hard hats looked round, tell us why.
Marty, would you put item 3? I would put that whole thing in the AOL category because that seems like form and function.
Well, wait, but right now I want to understand what was the most attractive. We're talking about matching here. And the question is, which is the best match between your transcript and each of those pictures? Right, but why would that have matched the chandelier, Greg? Well, okay. Hey, look, people judge things differently, and it's yours. The reflective could be for both, though that would be more for the chandelier. Now, the other thing to say about all of this is as you do this for the longest term, and one of the reasons this only makes sense for the longest term is that you'll get to see how well you did. So you'll get feedback and you'll see whether or not your judgments were right or wrong over and over again, and your feelings were right or wrong over and over again. Okay, I have a little time for Janice here. So do you have a mic, Janice? Oh, I think I can even rotate this. Probably not that way. How about there? Okay. Are you here with us, Janice? No mic, just chat? Okay, but let's see what we have here. Energy, motion, man-made. See, they're both man-made, so that doesn't distinguish. Well, land, water, obviously. Energy, yes. What's this word? This points out another reason self-judging works better than independent, because sometimes independent judges can't read the handwriting. So I don't know. Do you know what that word is? Or maybe she left.
Oh, Marty, this is Norm. Can you
Hi,
hear
Norm.
me?
Yep, I hear you well.
Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted just to thank you very much for the event, and I'll see you in Las Vegas in November.
Okay, that's terrific, Norm. I look forward to that. You're going to be able to join us tomorrow, maybe not?
I won't be able to. I've got a
Okay.
real late night tonight, but
Okay.
I'll catch the recording on that.
Okay, and let me just leave you with one thing about that. Feedback is important.
No, I can catch the feedback on the recording, I'm hoping.
I know, I understand. And no, I'm just sort of kidding you. You got that message already, Norm. Take care and thanks for joining us.
It's been wonderful. Thank you, guys.
Okay. So it looks like she's left us here, Janice. And let me just see what score she gave it. Maybe if she comes tomorrow, I'll can use this as an example. I just want to see what score. I thought she gave low scores, and that one doesn't look like it should be that low, at least at first blush. I will ignore this. There she, oh no, she gave that a 5. Okay, and I would agree with that. Okay, everybody, any closing questions, comments before I formally end this? Okay, it was fun being with you, and I will see you all tomorrow, and I do wish all of you health, wealth, and wisdom, and keep precogging, and I'll end this now.